Hi, this is Chris from needlepointers.com, and today I have a tutorial on making Mother's Day pillows. I've made two versions of this pillow, and this video will show you how to make this pillow with piping along the edge. But don't worry, if you're interested in the pillow with the lace, we have a full written tutorial on making that pillow on our website. Some of the steps for making each of the pillows are the same, so the video can be helpful for whichever pillow you decide to make. These two pillows were made with machine embroidery designs by Embroidery. The embroidered words include wife, doctor, caretaker, mentor, wise, friend, teacher, superwoman, chauffeur, and some other words. Each pillow has a little bit different design, and this one is a protea flower, and those are lilies or tulips. And the words on each one, some of the words are repeated and some of the words are different on the two different pillows. Mom is sure to love this pillow with either the lace or the piping. Make one for a sister, friend, mother, or grandmother. This will make a great Mother's Day gift, birthday gift, or holiday gift. Customize this pillow by picking a fabric Mom would like. This pillow has the center embroidery surrounded by fabric border and piping along the edge of the pillow. The back on both of these pillows is an envelope style back. So there is no zipper to install, and it's easy to remove the pillow form if needed. Similar to the first pillow, this pillow has a center embroidery. Around the embroidery are two borders, and the lace is sewn in between the borders. This pillow could also have the piping as an option. And as with the first pillow, it also has an envelope back. To make these pillows, I purchased decorator remnants. I needed 1 yard for each pillow and found it at a great price of $5.97 a yard. These are cotton fabrics, but they are a heavier weight than regular quilter's cotton. These types of fabrics do tend to have larger motifs on them, so if you purchase this type of fabric, pay attention to how large the print is. This print with the large flowers is almost too big for this pillow. Also, for the second pillow, the fabric changed part way across the fabric. Decorator fabrics tend to do this, so pay attention when selecting the fabric. In the case of this pillow, I was able to use both parts of the fabric on the backing and on the two borders. So I'll get started next showing how to make the pillow with the piping. To find written instructions for either of these pillows, supplies, and patterns, please click the link in the description of this video to go to our website for the full tutorials. For this Mother's Day pillow, you will need fabric to embroider on, backing fabric, and since we're making two different pillows, I have two different fabrics here, 16-inch pillow inserts, the pattern which comes from Embroidery. Optional is lace or cording, machine embroidery thread, stabilizers, both cutaway and tearaway I used, an embroidery and sewing machine, rotary cutter, rollers, and a mat. To make this pillow, cut the following pieces. Cut a 10 by 10 inch piece from the front embroidery fabric, and this is 10 inches wide so that I can hoop it in the hoop. Cut two back pieces at 12 inches by 17.5 inches. Cut a border strip 5 inches by the width of the fabric. Cut the top and bottom border at 10 inches by 5 inches. And then cut some strips for cord casing at 2 inches wide. And you'll need about 70 inches long when it's pieced together. When you're cutting the fabrics, keep in mind if the fabrics are directional that you cut the pieces in the correct direction for what position they're going to be around the pillow. Next, hoop your tearaway stabilizer, a layer of cutaway stabilizer, and your front fabric into your hoop to prepare for embroidering. I've loaded the pattern into the machine and I will start stitching with the first color. The pattern starts with the colors for the green around the flower and then continues with the flower, and then it will do the rest of the lettering. For this embroidery, I'm using these exquisite polyester embroidery threads in summer sizzle colors, and I introduced these to you in a previous video, and I'm still trying out these colors to see how they look in different items. So I hope you enjoy seeing this one. So while my embroidery machine is working on stitching out the embroidery, I'm going to show you how to do some of the other steps that we can prepare while we're waiting. So one of the things we can prepare is our cording. And I have this cording that I purchased at the store to put in between. And I cut a few strips from my fabric. And the next step is to sew the strips together into one big long strip. To do that, I'm going to sew them at 45 or 90-degree angles together. So I'm going to place them down right sides together on an angle like this, and then I will sew across from corner to corner. And then now it's pieced together. And I will cut this to a 1/4 inch seam. So after I get them all sewn together, I will go over to the ironing board and iron these seams open. The next step is to wrap the fabric around the cording. So I lay the cording in the middle, and what I would like to do is line up the cording. You want the cording on one side and line up the two edges, the raw edges of the fabric on this side. I'm going to use my zipper foot to sew close to the edge here. If you have a cording foot that's large enough for this cording, the cording that you purchased, then you could use the cording foot. So once you get this started, it should go easier. I'm going to stick that like right next to the edge and put all of the rest of the fabric in my lap or down in between my legs to the floor, and let it just hang. Move the needle all the way over to the right, and then I should be able to sew close to the edge. And then once you get started, just keep putting the fabric together. And it doesn't have to be absolutely exact, because this is all going to be in the seam allowance. So it's at least if it's close to that. But you do want to stay pretty close to the cording, because you want it to be pretty tight, the fabric to be pretty tight around the cord. So keep sewing all the way down the cord until you have all the cording put together. So there's my finished cording, and we'll use this a little bit later in the project. So these are my two back pieces, and these are it's going to become an envelope back style backing. So they're going to overlap a little bit in the back, and there's going to be a finished edge here and a finished edge here. So in order to finish those edges, turn the fabric wrong side up and fold under a 1/2 inch, or fold over a 1/2 inch, and iron. And then fold up another 1/2 inch and iron. And you may want to use your steam setting on your iron, or you can use something like Mary Ellen's Best Press to help keep it in place. So I'm going to finish doing this on this piece and on the other piece, back piece, and then we'll go on to the next step. So take your two back pieces and sew close to this edge, this folded, inside folded edge. On both pieces. So it'll look something like that when it's finished. So the embroidery is finished, and I really like how it turned out. It did buckle a little bit in the middle here, so the other one that I did also did a similar buckling in the middle. So I would recommend that you use some sticky back stabilizer first, and then either float another layer of cutaway stabilizer or float the tearaway stabilizer behind this to try to give it more support, because there's a lot of stitching in the flowers area. Next step is to remove the tearaway. Because this is going inside a pillow, I don't have to worry about removing every little bit. I'm going to cut away most of this cutaway stabilizer carefully so that I don't cut my actual project. So next step will be to cut this down to 8.5 inches across by 8.5 inches up and down. And I like to use my large square ruler to do this. I have my ruler set so that I can cut this, and I'll be getting 8.5 inches around from the center each direction. So I can cut the first two sides here, and then I'll flip it around, and now I'll measure at the 8.5 inch mark each direction. And I have it pretty well centered there. So the next steps will be to sew the top piece and the bottom piece onto the centerpiece, and then sew the side pieces on each side. So here are my top and bottom piece. I'm going to start with this top piece and flip it over. I'm going to put my 1/4 inch foot on my machine and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew the pieces together. Take the pins out as you go. And there's the first piece sewn on. And here's this bottom piece. I'm going to flip it up and pin that one on also. And sew this side on too. And there's the finished center pieces. And I'm going to take this over to the ironing board and iron it towards the outer pieces, because this is really thick, so I'm going to iron it out this way. I'll be right back. Next, I'm going to center this side piece onto the side here. Sew this on to the side. So the side piece is sewn on. I'm going to trim this off and then continue and sew the other section onto this other side, and I'll be back. So next we're going to pin the cording around the edge of the pillow. I want to start it like kind of not in the center, so I'm going to start off center along the bottom, and I'm going to start pinning it leaving several inches open here. And I'm going to let the selvage edge, or the unfinished edge, hang over the edge of the pillow just a bit, so that the seam will end up being about 1/2 inch from the edge of the pillow. And then I'm going to pin it in place, again leaving this end open. When I come to the corner, I'm going to do kind of a curved corner, because trying to do a squared corner is almost impossible with this cording, especially this thick cording that I have. So I'm going to clip this a little bit just to release it in a couple places. And I'm not clipping all the way up to the seam, just partially. And then curving it so that I like how the curve lays. Then I'll pin the first pin on the side seam here. So I think I like that curve. But you see how it's bunching up here, so I'm going to have to clip this a little bit further. Open. And then I can pin this down also. So I'll continue around doing the same thing until I get to the beginning part, and then I'll be back to show you what I am going to do for the beginning. Okay, I'm back to the beginning, and I've opened up the seam on the original edge, just a few inches here. And what I want to do is first I'm going to trim this extra from the ending section so that it overlaps into this section. And make sure I have the seam removed at least a little bit past the point where that piece comes in. Next, I'm going to trim this piece. This one comes up and that one comes up, and they just butt up against each other. Here we see they're going to butt up right against each other when they connect. So to finish this edge off, I'm going to fold this down like so and finger press it. Then take this piece, hold it in place, take this piece and lay it exactly where you want it so that they come up together, and wrap it around on both sides, and then pin this in place. So that'll be a nice finished edge for that. So the next step is that I'm going to sew around close to the cording again to attach the cording to the front of the pillow. When you get to the corner, go extra slow so that you can step around the corner, and be sure you're sewing close to the cording. And when you get to the spot where you join the two together, just be extra careful sewing across that area also. Okay, so now I have the cording sewn around the edge of the bow. Next we'll put the back on. Alright, so we prepared the back pieces earlier. So the next step is to just lay the back pieces on, and they overlap each other. So you lay them on with the raw edges, even with the raw edges of the bottom, the edges of the pillow all the way around. So they're going to overlap here in the middle because this is an envelope back, and when we turn it, then we can put the pillow in, and the pillow can be easily taken out later, and in case you want to wash the top, or if you need to wash the pillow itself, but it can be taken out and put back in easily, and no zipper. So I'm going to pin around this a little bit to hold it in place. So I'll finish pinning this all the way around, and then I'll be over at the sewing machine and I'll show you sewing around this. So next step is to sew along the edge of the cording here. Don't sew over your pins. And be careful when sewing over the overlapping fabric here for the backing, so you don't flip it up. When you get to the corners, again, go around slowly. After you've gone around, place some reinforcement stitching across the opening where the backing overlaps, just to make sure it doesn't get pulled open and rip. Do that on both sides. Trim the corners to take off the point. As the last step, we're going to zigzag over the edge just to give a little bit of finish on this edge. So I will switch back to my normal presser foot and set on a zigzag stitch, add a pretty wide stitch, and I'll zigzag on one side and off the other side. Alright, so the final step is to turn the pillow around. Okay. So there's the finished pillow, and take your pillow form and simply insert that in to the pillow. Make sure you get the pillow form all the way the corner into the corner, so it kind of isn't bunched up and it fills up the pillow form, or the pillow form fills up the pillow. And how's that for a completed pillow? Perfect for mom. I hope you enjoyed this step-by-step tutorial on how to make this pillow. If you would like to learn how to make this other pillow, or you'd like to see written instructions for either of these pillows, please click the link in the iCard or in the description of this video to go to our website, needlepointers.com, where we will have a full written tutorial for both of these pillows. Please like and share our videos, and if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss future videos. Help us spread our videos by sharing them with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Visit our website, needlepointers.com, for lots of other machine embroidery tutorials and free projects. While you're there, sign up for our weekly newsletter so you won't miss any new tutorials. Happy sewing!